Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. Something I feel extremely passionate about in my life, and truly the reason I do everything I do between my work with cannabis, the podcasts, etc., is to give people the opportunity to liberate themselves. I see life like a video game, and the main challenge amongst this reality is that most of us believe we know the rules of the game called life. Yet, as you will recognize after hearing today's conversation, the amount we don't know about how to truly thrive within this world is absolutely mind-boggling. And to be in alignment with this show is also quite psychedelic when you sink into what all you'll be hearing today can be applied into your life. Today's guest on the show is a man who I found not because of psychedelics, but because of the subject of sovereignty. He is the owner and founder of One Stupid Fuck, which is a business dedicated to supplying the world with a true history behind money, banking, law, and more. Within his business, he has an amazing free course that I highly recommend you download called the Contract Killer Course, along with further education for those of you that want to truly see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is an episode that I very much recommend sharing with anyone you love, as, like I stated earlier, the implications of what this information can do for you and your loved ones will be the strongest psychedelic experience you've ever dreamt of, guaranteed. So, please help me in welcoming my man, Brandon Joe Williams, aka One Stupid Fuck himself, to the show. Brandon, my man, what is up?
Thank you. That's hilarious. My business is One Stupid Fuck, that's my business. Yeah. My business is being a one stupid fuck. That's my profession,
Dude, can I just say, and I think I say this in the outro too, but man, like, you're one of the funniest motherfuckers I've ever met. And I surround myself with some pretty funny motherfuckers. And dude, when I'll tell you exactly how I found you, right? And for everyone listening, this is going to be really funny. So one night I have a buddy, my buddy Eddie Madden. He's been on the show before. Awesome dude. Lives here in Boston with me. We're into all the same stuff. We do these little get-togethers, these little guy nights called hot dog parties, right? Where
that's cool.
Yeah, where like when our ladies are gone, we'll get together, we'll blow bags on the volcano, we'll listen to conspiracy theories, and we'll fucking, just eat some hot dogs, right? Organic, of course, right? So it's a little ritual. And the last time both of our women were gone, I was like, hey man, come over, let's hit some bags, and so he comes over and he's like, dude, you ever heard about this like financial sovereignty stuff? And I was like, yeah, I've heard like a little bit about it. Spoiler alert, I definitely had not heard anything about it. Once I realized, and he was like, dude, you got to go to this website, One Stupid Fuck. And I was like, all right. So I go there, dude. And I was like, wow, like, dude, your paragraph about LinkedIn fucking got me so good. I was like, this guy gets it, bro. Like, dude. I like for any of you that go on LinkedIn to, I don't know, maybe do business. I don't even know how anyone would do business on LinkedIn, but dude, it is like, I don't know if they're using ChatGPT for like the fucking messages, but like, dude, when you had that line that was like, LinkedIn is fucking pathetic. Everyone pretends to care about shit that literally doesn't matter. I was like, dude, you know how many times I've been hit up on there for like accounting payroll services? And they're like, would you like to hop on a call about this? And I'm like, no, that sounds like the worst hour of my life. So, dude, I got to commend you for that line alone, dude. Let alone, I mean, all of your copy is fucking brilliant, dude. So game recognized game, son.
Oh my God. That's fucking hilarious. The LinkedIn part. Yeah. It's like, I think on my way, I forget what I say. I think I'd rather feed myself into a wood chipper than go on LinkedIn. I think that's what I said. Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn is fucking awful, dude. Ugh.
It's so weird, man. I just don't get it. Like, again, it's like, I bet it works for some type of person, like no judgment, whatever, but clear fucking discernment. Like that is not the droid I am looking for. And it's like, and dude, speaking of this, right, everyone's probably wondering what the hell are they talking about, right? So where I usually start these episodes is how you first got involved in the realm of psychedelics. What I'm going to do for this time, because what you do, the nature of what you do is so fucking psychedelic, is how did you first get into sovereignty, right? Like when we were doing the, for anyone who listened to the Mighty Morphin Sovereign Rangers, you'll recognize Brandon from that, right? And that was a deep dive. Like I was white knuckling to hold on in terms of like, higher level education and more of the sovereignty space than more of what I've been into, which is like what I was talking about before, like OPM, investing, things like that. But how did you first get into this stuff, right? Like how does someone, first of all, even find this stuff and then become obsessed with it? Tell me everything, man. I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I took on a company that I got for free, and it had a lot of issues, hence why it was free. One of the issues was with the employment development department. We had the employment development department, which is like a payroll tax mafia out here in California. They came onto one of our job sites and sent me this huge bill that was going to wipe us out. And people kept telling me, lawyers and stuff kept telling me, oh, you need to make a payment plan, this and that. And I'm like, make a payment plan for what? What am I paying for? Oh, you just have to make a payment plan. You just have to make a payment plan. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. So I had a friend of mine who was trying to tell me about all this crazy ass shit for like 2 years. And I kept telling her, no, I don't want to talk to you about that. Because I thought it was insane. And I thought it was terrifying, just like most people do. And then after 2 years of saying no, I had this problem with my company, and my company was about ready to get wiped out. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to call this crazy lady that I said no to for 2 years. And I'm going to go talk to her now. So that's what started it all. She kind of gave me some of the basic information, and then I went online to try to find some more information. Couldn't find a whole lot. A lot of the sovereignty space websites are made by older. They're made by older people who have been doing this for a long time, who have sort of Alex Jones themselves into a situation where they've been trying to tell people for so long that they are now kind of just screaming about it. It's a sad situation because you have a person who was genuinely trying to help people, but got fucking slapped around socially, either shut down or told they were crazy so long that a person like that starts to get more and more desperate and frantic. And then you compound that for 20 or 30 years. And by the end, they look like a raving maniac when they're not, which makes it even more depressing because a lot of these people have really interesting things to say. But now, because they're raving, no one will listen. And their websites look like they were built in 1998. So it's a bit of a problem where, when you're entry level and you look at these websites, you're like, oh no, and you're like, there's no credibility. There's no trust that's built. And it just sounds like a raving maniac on a website from 1995. So you leave and you don't look at it. So I went on Amazon then, and I started looking up books, and I found a lot of really, really good material there. So I started buying lots of books. I started reading lots of books. And then I was reading very quietly for about 6 months. And then I was actually developing my website. I started developing my website January of 2022. And I was working on it every single day, sometimes hours a day. And then I launched it on March 14th of 2022 after having read probably, 26 or 28 books, something like that. And then there was also a video series by a guy named Christopher Hauser that came out around that same time period. I was watching his videos, and it was just kind of, I wanted to make a one-stop shop where someone could come and get acquainted with this information in a fun, engaging, and free way, all in one location. That way they didn't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of books and do all the craziness like I had to do.
That makes perfect sense. And dude, it's amazing, man. It's amazing to hear your process. And, it really articulates the hero's journey too, of like, when you find something that fucking slaps, like you're going to go for it, and I love that, and
oh yeah.
What are some of the basics of this stuff, right? For someone who's just listening to this and was like, what do they even mean by sovereignty, right? Like, I know we could take this a lot of different ways, but if someone asked you, hey, Brandon, what are the basics that, maybe would like illuminate for a lot of people? Like, oh shit, there's like a lot in here. And guys, like there is a lot in here for sure. Like, it's years worth of information. For sure. Even like your course alone,
Mm-hmm.
how many hours is in there? Probably like 60 plus hours in that course, like just the contract killer course?
No, like 24.
24? Okay, gotcha. The first videos I went through, some of them were like around an hour. So I figured, I'm like, oh, they're probably each an hour, but I think I've made it through about 10 of yours right now. Fucking amazing, dude. Guys, like it is absolutely incredible. But Brandon, what are some of the basics, for someone to know about sovereignty and like kind of what this space is, why it should matter to them? Like, I'd love to go into some of that stuff. Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to take a quick moment to let you all know that the doors are officially open for the Conscious Cannabis Collective. And as such, this is the last week you can sign up and receive all of the bonuses we're currently including. This is the last time I will be personally onboarding those of you who sign up with a complimentary one-on-one session, and you'll have the ability to get the Grow with Cannabis course for free during this limited time. For more info on how you can take advantage of this offer, head down to the show notes for this episode and secure your spot today, as we only have so many spots left and they are filling up quickly. Now back to the show.
Yeah, like I said before we started the show, a lot of it's changed recently. So basically, sovereignty itself is just it's a mindset that's developed through the understanding of basic law and the definitions of words and terms, right?
Mm.
So for example, can I do a screen share? Would you mind?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So if you go on my website and you go down to the Amnesty Coalition page, which is, I have my own nation now called the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition. And I guess the ultimate spot, if you wanted to talk about sovereignty would be if I had to define sovereignty, it would be fully in control over the connections and disconnections to everything in your life, internally and externally. So that could be like family, that could be like governmental, political, that could be like your job. Like if you feel stuck at your job and you feel like you can't leave your job, that would be a problem in sovereignty, because you're the one who should have control over that of which you are connected to. If you feel that you're dating someone and you're stuck in a relationship that you can't get out of, that would be a problem in sovereignty. In my own world, in my own definition, it's way above and beyond the political end of this kind of a thing, right? But if you wanted to have your own nation, which is extremely easy, so easy, in fact, that you won't even believe me, you just need to know a few basic definitions, right? And the basic definitions are the definition of body politic, society, nation, and state. Body politic means state or nation or public associations. So that one means basically the same thing. Society, an association or company of persons, usually unincorporated, united together by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine, and act jointly in some common purpose. In a wider sense, the community or public, the people in general. So that means pretty much the same thing, all right? State, the word state means, in its largest sense, a state is a body politic or society of men. So we see they're all pretty much the same words here, okay? And then I found this definition of nation that's really, really, really good, that sort of cleans up all of these words and the whole idea of sovereignty almost in one shot, basically, right? This is from a court case. He says, an independent nation is an independent body politic, a society of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. But every combination of men who govern themselves independently of all others will not be considered a nation. A body of pirates, for example, who govern themselves are not a nation. To constitute a nation, another ingredient is required. The body thus formed must respect other nations in general and each of their members in particular. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and will peculiar to herself and is susceptible of obligations and rights. And I know the last part there might be a little bit confusing. Basically, the definition of a nation is sort of like a human body. You have all these cells that come together into one cohesive whole, and it operates as one unit. Now, as long as that unit has respect and decorum and care for other groups, then that body is considered a nation, right? And the other part of this that really clarifies things is the legal definition of the word peace, P-E-A-C-E, like friendliness or good discourse, right? The definition that I like the most, that I feel plugs into this and really clarifies a lot of things, is the tranquility enjoyed by a political society, internally by the good order which reigns among its members, and externally by the good understanding it has with all other nations. Applied to the internal regulations of a nation, peace imports, in a technical sense, not merely a state of repose and security as opposed to one of violence or warfare, but likewise a state of public order and decorum. And the first culture that comes to my mind, and I think comes to most people's minds when they think of this, is the English culture. This sort of like very easygoing, friendly, enjoyable to listen to. You know, I was on a show a couple of days ago and I was joking. I was like a heated argument between a Bobby and someone else in London is, hey, I think you were going a little too fast. And oh no, I don't think you're. I disagree with your opinion there, officer. It's sort of like it's a state of public order and decorum, right? But due to the completely manufactured divide and conquer campaigns that have been launched and that are very successful in the United States, most people in the United States have very short fuses because we've been brainwashed to be so. So the definition of peace fits into this definition of nation. And for example, even your friends that get together for guys' night, that's actually considered a nation or society or body politic or state by definition, and so is your podcast. So when I say that it's very, very simple, so simple, in fact, that you won't believe me, the thing is that you already have it. You already have it in multiple areas of your life. And what's funny is that everyone walks around describing themselves as a U.S. citizen, right? But if you go to 28 USC 3002, and you go to Cornell Law University, and you go down to the subsection 15, it says here, United States means a federal corporation. And then you go to UCC, which stands for the Uniform Commercial Code, 9-307, and you go down to subsection H, that corporation, United States, location of United States, the United States is located in the District of Columbia. So what's the definition of a United States citizen? 9102. I think it's this one.
I mean, there's a lot of codes to remember, man. It's amazing that you know them so well. You know, when we were doing that Mighty Morphin Sovereign Rangers and you were rattling them off, I'm like, oh, this guy has definitely done flashcards or something of the sort.
So it's 42 United States Code 9102 has the definition of United States citizen, right? So it says here, United States citizen means any individual who is a citizen of the United States, which means the District of Columbia, by law, birth, or naturalization, right? So if you're contracted into the District of Columbia in some way, then it would be by law. If you were born in the District of Columbia, it would be by birth. But this is actually the biggest one by far. And this is the one that no one knows and no one thinks about. It's actually the definition of naturalization. Naturalization is found in 8 USC 1101, subsection A23. And I'll show you what that means. And again, we're getting to a point now with this information where it's so simple that no one believes me. So we're now having to redesign everything, and we're actually going through a reverse engineering process right now where we're trying to figure out how we're going to fix that problem, because it's too we went from it being way too complicated and everyone just went away because it was way too complicated to now people are complaining that it's way too simple. So it's kind of funny. So the definition of naturalization from 8 USC 1101 subsection A23, the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So now we have to break down all these words. The word conferring is actually just a normal dictionary definition. It's not actually a legal definition. It just means to bestow an honor, for example, or to invest with a characteristic, for example, like conferred a medal on the hero, or a carefully worded statement that conferred an aura of credibility, right? So we've already cleaned up the definition of state before. And so now we should have everything we need to nationality is associated with nation. So we've already cleaned that up too. So now if we reread this again, the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So this is almost as silly and as goofy as people who just say whatever gender they are. If you can now the big problem here, people are like, oh, it's so simple. It couldn't possibly be this simple. There is a bit of the linchpin in all of this, the spinal cord of all of this, is that everyone is going to the government and asking the government to confer nationality of a state upon them. The problem is that you don't have to do that. You can confer nationality of a state upon yourself by any means whatsoever. So when you fill out a passport application form, you don't say, may I have a passport? You say, I am this particular nationality. Please issue me a passport right now. There's a big difference between those two communications. When you ask the government to confer nationality of a state upon you, they can say no. When you confer nationality of a state upon yourself, they cannot say no. It is a physical and legal impossibility. So going back to United States citizen, any individual who is a citizen of the United States by law, birth, or naturalization. So let's say we want to sign up for voter registration. If we go to the application for voter registration, check out the different choices that we have here.
Very interesting.
Every single one of these choices on voter registration naturalizes us as living in the District of Columbia. There's no option that would not naturalize us or confer nationality of United States, which is in the District of Columbia, on ourselves. When you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, there's going to be a question on there. Are you a U.S. citizen, yes or no? If you click yes, you just naturalized as a citizen of the United States, which means you live in the District of Columbia. Now, the funny thing is that there's another term. It's in 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A21, which is right by the one we just looked at. Naturalization. We have the term national means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. Now, you think to yourself, permanent. This is also another trick. If you click on permanent and you look up the definition that they use here, it's a smokescreen definition, just like everything else. The term permanent means a relationship of continuing or lasting nature as distinguished from temporary. But a relationship may be permanent even though it is one that may be dissolved eventually at the instance of either the United States or of the individual in accordance with law. Permanent means nothing.
It's wild how much etymology truly matters. And for everyone listening too, like Brandon's referring a lot to, if for any of you guys that aren't seeing the screen here, if you're listening to it and not watching the video, he's referring a lot to like different dictionaries, right? Like Black's Law, 4th edition. I saw the 6th edition on there too. And it's a totally different like language, right? Like legalese is a totally different language that lawyers technically use. But it's not just lawyers. It's like the whole entire system. And we don't have to get into like how lawyers are trained with the bar, which is actually from the European banking cartels and yada, yada. But this is why this is so important, ladies and gents, right? Because even person, right? Like the definition of person means a natural person or a corporation, right? And so like, there's just so much in here. And that's why I say, guys, like it's a gigantic rabbit hole. And Brandon breaks it down so fucking good. Yeah, he's got it up on the screen right here. Boom. It's fucking cool.
The term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation, right?
Yeah, it's fucking interesting. It's very interesting stuff. It's mind-boggling to me when you start learning about the CSQV and, all of that stuff as well. And I don't pretend to know a lot about it, to be honest. Like I said, I got more into, I was kind of doing two things at the same time. So I took more of like, okay, let me figure out how to use the credit system to benefit me, right? But what I love about your stuff is that you actually allow us to understand why we could leverage credit, right? Like why all debt is fraud, these kind of things. And these are gigantic subjects, guys. Like I don't know how much we're going to be able to cover in one episode, but that's why Brandon's got a whole course in it. But it's fucking really freeing stuff when you start to really sink into what this stuff can mean for you and your loved ones in your own life. It's pretty wild.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like Totally fucking crazy. All this shit is just totally fucking crazy. But to go back to it is. It's literally like waking up in a brand new world every single day. Because it's like, oh my God, And then you're driving around, and it's just like the whole world is just very, very different, because you realize that you're a national, as per 8 USC 1101 subsection A21, of many, many, many different nations in your life, unless you're like a fucking hermit, right? Your job is a nation, boys' night is a nation, your home, your family, and your home is a nation by definition. Any other clubs that you may be a part of as a nation. Now, a lot of the definitions and stuff that you look up, one of the areas that's really interesting that I can actually prove a lot of this too, on top of what I've just shown you, is actually an 8FAM 505.2, which is the passport endorsement section. So this is a legal, unclassified legal section of the passport system that explains different types of like advanced endorsements and stuff that you can get. There's actually a lot of information in the passport system that no one knows about. Everyone thinks that it's just a passport's a passport. Even the people at the passport office think that a passport's a passport. Well, that's the most hilarious thing of all. But if you go down to subsection, this is endorsement number 11, which is actually a diplomatic endorsement. It says here, the bearer is an ambassador at large for title. If you go online, you type in ambassador at large. What does it mean? An ambassador with special duties not appointed to a particular country. And if you look at the example that they give in 8FAM 505.2, it says here, ambassador at large for global women's issues. Global women's issues is not a location. It is not a territory. It is not a locality. And you got to think, too, is a lot of these definitions and stuff like that of nation and society and body politic that I've already read to you, these were made, way, way before the internet. So you also got to think, too, is that now we have the internet, which is even more crazy in terms of how you can have a nation, and the nation can be online. You have a lot of online nations. For example, your podcast is by definition a nation. And you can actually get a fucking passport based off that.
Dude.
So what's funny is everyone's walking around saying that they're a U.S. citizen, U.S. citizen, U.S. citizen. And what's funny is that's the one thing that you aren't. That's the one thing that you aren't. You're all these other things, and you say the one thing that you're not. And that one thing that you say that you're not contracts you in to have to pay taxes and get pulled over and get tickets and everything else. It's such a fucking joke. So sovereignty, the definition of sovereignty as a mindset in my world, in my movement, in my nation, and I have a whole covenant that I have people who want to join the nation, they sign a covenant, right? And I can show you that too. The covenant, if I go down, this is all the information. There's definitions. And then we have the covenant, right? And the covenant is to be at peace at all times and not allow yourself or your world to be poisoned by people trying to manipulate you into some kind of warfare, and to devote the rest of your entire existence, not just your current life, to the creation, clarification, and dissemination of the words and meanings of words, terms, phrases, and symbols as needed to expand and clarify this world. This dissemination includes presenting the meanings and definitions in a way that promotes excitement and understanding in the person receiving the information. So this nation is an information-based nation, and we have a special explanatory statement that we actually attach to the back of the DS-11 passport application form, right? And this is a diplomatic style passport that we're actually getting issued, and we're getting it issued on behalf of the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. And all you do is you watch my videos, you actually understand this, and it clarifies a lot of these points, right? In accordance with how the United States is defined, I don't reside in the United States. We've already covered that. As per the process of naturalization, I am a national, as per 8 USC 1101, subsection A21. I am not these other things. I am specifically that one, I am a non-citizen foreign national and ambassador at large for the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. I am conferring these statuses and nationalities upon myself as the agent without any request for permission or approval.
Dude, that is amazing. And I'm curious too, like, does this have something to do with, I just saw the latest thing from you that made me laugh and I'm going to spit my water on my computer, which was the passport you got, which was like the fucking passport picture in the fucking pickle, dude. Holy shit. Yeah. Slowjamistan. What is that? How does that relate to the Amnesty Coalition? Dude, guys, check out that picture. This is like elite level. I don't even know what to call it. Trolling. Like, I don't even know what it's like. It is like a fucking, you've perfected it, dude. And unlike most trolls who are just like, I don't know, kind of like incompetent, like you have it really down. It's like a love language for you. Like, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. And I'm curious, like, how does Slowjamistan relate to the Amnesty Coalition? Because that was what I was curious on when I saw it. I think it was last night I saw it and I was like, oh, I'm going to ask him tomorrow.
That's a great question. So the big secret in how to have your own nation. So you say to yourself, oh, I have my own nation. How do I? The first question people have is, wow, if I do in fact have these various nations that I'm a part of, then how do I get them officially recognized? And we think that way because we're all brainwashed. Because if you go to USC 11, 18 USC 11, foreign government defined, the term foreign government includes any government, faction, or body of insurgents within a country with which the United States, which means the District of Columbia, is at peace, irrespective of recognition by the United States. That last part is the most important part, right? So now we've already cleaned up what the word peace means, right? The word peace is, a state of the tranquility enjoyed by a political society, blah, blah, blah. We already covered that earlier, right? So my covenant describes in great detail about our peace and what that means for us as a group in relation to other groups and that kind of thing, right? But basically, Slowjamistan, in my opinion, is the best example of 18 USC 11 in the world because he is essentially the master troller. He is like troller. Like if you go onto his Instagram or his website, Slowjamistan, like for example, here's the Parliament page. Okay, if you scroll down, we've got Director of Emergency Services. We've got the Mark Corona, the Chief Border Agent, right? We've got Rescue Rick, Emergency Services, right? Rescue Rick's here. It gets better, though. We got Director of Land Management, Joe Lindsay. Okay, he's here, right? And then we got all these other guys, right? And then we got, what else do we got? We got Special Forces, Crown Prince, Director S3, Bradley Gentile. What else do we have here? Director of Misdirection. We have Tyson, right? Minister of Astronomy, Minister of Tomfoolery, Claude Riley, right? But it gets better. We've got Minister of Margaritas. We've got Clayton Cawthron, the General Army Attorney General Ian. And then we've got people like the Empress of Catlandia, which is Catherine Keyes, right? And if you click on her, she's got cats here. See? So.
Oh my God. Dude, that guy's name, Larry Pancake. I was like, dude, I'm dead, wrecked.
Right? So you scroll down, we've got Minister Sand and Gravel. I'll probably, Director of Pizza Fairs. I'll probably apply for some position at some point in time, but for now, here's me.
Oh my God, dude.
As an ambassador. I'm an ambassador. If you go to the ambassador section.
Oh my God.
I'm a California ambassador. Right?
Oh, gotcha. That is so hilarious, dude. I mean, that is like, I don't even have words, dude. Like, I am wrecked about this. Like, it's just absolutely hilarious. And I'm curious, like, is Slowjamistan an actual place, or is it really like, because I haven't looked over the page yet. Of course, I'm sure it probably has it in there, but is it just people that got together and formed this ultimately? Or is it like, different people coming together to form one thing? Like, which one of those seems more accurate? Or maybe neither. Maybe it's totally different.
No, there's this guy here. He created his own micronation in 1996 called Molozia. It's in the middle of nowhere in Nevada. Nation of Molozia. It's an official, independent, sovereign country inside Nevada for more than 40 years. The president, His Excellency Kevin Bogg. I'm sorry. 1977. Holy shit.
Wow. Damn.
Wow. Okay. And what's funny is it says here the micronation has not received recognition from any of the member states of the United Nations. But what's funny is it doesn't need to. That's the big secret. They pretend as though it's like, oh, no one's recognized it. But the thing is that micronations do not need recognition to be micronations. They only have to be at peace. Now, that can be a little bit complicated because you say to yourself, well, be at peace. Different nations can have different definitions of that. Yes, but that's really where you want to focus your attention if you want to understand micronations. You want to focus it on diplomatic relations, the definitions of peace, treaties, and contractual obligations between groups. That's the area that if you focus in on those areas, then you are a national of all the different nations that you're associated with, and that's the end of the story, and there's nobody, including the government, can tell you otherwise. Okay. If you're not at peace and you're ranting and raving, I'm sorry, like Alex Jones, and you're freaking out all the time, you aren't legally a foreign government. And that's the guys that get the FBI kicking their doors in and that kind of thing. You're not going to see Slowjamistan getting raided by the FBI. So he went and visited Malaysia, was blown away by it. And he said, well, shit, I'm going to do the same thing. And then he went out and did his whole thing. If you go to history and FAQ section, where is it located? Is it really a country? You betcha, right? I don't believe you, right? So it's a real country. And if you go down here to the timeline, you'll see he was looking for land, and then he acquired land based off of I forget the treaty. There was a special treaty that he was basing that off of, the land. From my research, you don't need land to have a nation. But the guy on Slowjamistan, he was operating off of a different kind of treaty. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not the master at this. I mean, he's actually done it. But from my research, you don't need land to have your own nation.
Dude, that is so wild, man. Yeah, because I've heard about what do they call it? I don't think it's an actual nation. It's just an area. I think it's also in Nevada that's like I forget where it is. A bunch of homeless people live there and whatnot. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a old military town maybe or something, and it's all like spray painted.
There's a lot of that kind of thing. There's groups that live out in the middle of nowhere. There's this, there's that. There's it's if it's an unincorporated area, the only thing that gives the police any jurisdiction over you in that area is you being filed as a U.S. citizen.
That makes sense.
So if you're not filed as a U.S. citizen and you don't live in an incorporated area, you're like completely untouchable. You can't, like, they can't do anything to you. They can't do anything. They can't call you to jury duty. They can't subpoena you. They can't do anything. So what they do is they hold out these cookies like voter registration, as you saw.
Yeah.
and they make it to where you have to contract in as a U.S. citizen in order to be able to vote. Once you contract in, then you're a United States citizen by law. Remember, we saw by law, birth, or naturalization. So when you contract in through voter registration or something else as a U.S. citizen, you're both naturalizing and by law. Even if you weren't born here, or even if you were born in the District of Columbia, it doesn't matter. So the thing is that a lot of people ask me, well, can I do all this information and I was never born in the United States? And the answer is yes, you totally can. You can naturalize as a national, and you can live in the 50 states of America legally without having to have a green card or citizenship documentation.
That is wild.
And that's psychedelic. That's fucking psychedelic, right?
I was going to say, just right there. Like, if anyone's listening, ever wanted to come to the U.S. and thought you had to go through all these hoops, there's your answer, right? And again, like, these rabbit holes are extremely deep, and they are very cunning, right? Like, I forget if it was in your course or in Jay Griff's, but one of the things they stated was like, do not think these people are stupid. Malicious, maybe, but stupid, no. Like, they know exactly what they were doing. Like, and a lot of the way in which, I believe they avoid karmic debt, because that's the question I get when I tell people this, is like, well, how are they avoiding karma? Or are they avoiding karma? And I'm like, well, if you put the truth in plain sight and you let people know kind of what you're doing, but maybe you do it in a way where, with the other stuff going on, most people are too busy to even think they need to look into what person means, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, on the back of every dollar bill, there's the "In God We Trust." And everyone's like, oh yeah, we believe in God. It's like, nah, man, that's the name of the trust you're in, unknowingly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, and there's definitely like a bomb, if you will, right? That I think when people hear, no matter who you are within this space, it just like tickles up your spine, which is like the whole like CS what your social security number is. I'd love if you could dive into a little bit of that. Because again, I know these are all huge subjects that we could spend probably 8 hours on just talking about one thing. But, my intention with this episode for all of you guys listening too, is to give you enough of like the starter, if you will. And Brandon's got the full course. You can go through fucking everything, right? But enough of the starter as to like why this should really freak you out in a good way. So Brandon, yeah, I'd love if you could get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know everything about this, and I didn't really cover it too much. I don't really get into it too much because it's a lot of complication where other areas are a lot more fruitful. Like, for example, if people are trying to get a lot of money, everyone's rushing over to try to access their Social Security, SKV accounts and all that. But the thing is that we're actually onto way greener pastures now, so we don't really deal with this anymore. But it was all part of the learning process, and in my course, I talk about it because it was part of the learning process. So it's okay. Plus, everyone's talking about it, so it'd be good for you to look it over and cover it, right?
Yeah, and then after, I'll definitely, if you want to get into some of the newer stuff too after, that'd be perfect, because I'm definitely open to all of this stuff.
Well, the newer stuff I pretty much just covered: the naturalization, the definition of naturalization, and then micronations. That's actually the newest stuff, right? Cool. And then this last week, I just released 2 huge monster videos on how to have infinite money. So it's the financial end of all of this. If you guys are looking to learn about the financial end, you're going to go onto these 2 videos right here on my YouTube: how to have infinite money and how to have your own nation.
It's like a Grand Theft Auto cheat.
Yeah, literally. This is like living life as GTA 5 kind of a deal, right? And you can see it's 5 days old. We've got 5.6 thousand views. This is huge. This is I've been very slow to release the financial information because I knew people were going to run out and do shit.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to piece it together over like the past 8 to 12 months as much as possible, to the point where I could give a person like a very, very, very super ultra simplified, very full bodied explanation as to how this works and how you can have infinite money. And it's not a glitch. It's not like a hack or a glitch. It's actually you're operating through law, and this is actually the way that things supposed to be. And what's funny is that the infinite money stuff is attached to the Social Security in a way, right? And that's why I wanted to cover this. So for anybody who wants to check this out, this is probably the most mind-blowing and most concise and most all-encompassing video I currently have available in all of my material anywhere. So definitely check this out. It will change your life. You'll probably within a couple months of watching this video, you'll probably never have to pay another bill in your life. I know that's kind of a big statement, but it's huge. It's like a year of research compiled down into 3.5 hours.
God damn.
And then this one here is a successful discharge, and we cover exactly the different documents that he used. There's a lot of really, really complicated information out there when it comes to financials. The information that I am teaching and the information that I am showing you on these videos is so fucking simple. Again, you won't even believe it. That's the problem. And if you don't, I don't have any way of fixing that right now. I'll figure it out eventually. But for right now, if you think we're gone down to an ultra simplicity and it can't possibly be this simple, fine then. Because my plan is to just keep bringing people on the show who are doing it successfully, and that's going to be my way of proving it, that yes, it's this simple, and yes, it works, okay? So with that said, if we go to 20 CFR 422.104, it says here, who can be assigned a Social Security number, right? And it's so funny because it says here, persons eligible for Social Security number assignment. We can assign you a Social Security number if you meet the evidence requirements in 422.107. Now, you would never imagine that they have another special definition section over here, which is, you have to go, if you don't know about this, then you'd never find it. It's a whole nother area. What special definitions apply to this subpart? You have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you have to look at this the special definition of the word you.
Oh my God.
You means an individual who owes a debt to the United States within the scope of this subpart, right?
Good Lord.
So it's you means slave. The definition of you means slave. And you can even click here on the clickable definitions. The cool thing about Cornell is they link the special definitions into the subparts.
I love
which
that
is huge. Cornell is the shit. Okay. So you click on you and it says right here, boom, look at this.
Wow. I mean, it's right in plain sight, yet it's not really in plain sight, but they have it there, right? Who would really think, like, guys, for everyone listening, like, I never thought there'd be a different definition for the word you or person or any of these things, right? So how would any of us know? I mean, even lawyers, you want to see a lawyer squiggle in their seat, start mentioning some of this stuff to them, right? And I've been enjoying doing that because I don't know the most about this. So I can imagine what it must feel like for a lawyer who's been doing law for like 40 years to hear some kid spouting off about discharging shit. But it's very interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, lawyers get terrified because lawyers are little bitches. They're owned by the courts. They're officers of the court, right? And they think that if they do any of this stuff, they're going to piss off the courts. And if they piss off the courts, then they'll pull their bar card. But what's funny is you don't need a bar card. It's all a big fucking hilarious. The whole thing, you study this and you're upset and you keep studying and you keep studying and you keep studying and you keep studying and you keep studying. And then you get to a point where the whole thing is just absolutely fucking hilarious. Because now you have a court system that's trying to create bonds on everybody desperately so that they can put all this money away and they can create all this money because the judges have these pension funds and when they retire, they're going to get like some ungodly amount of money and they want that money for their families. But the thing is that when you study financials, you can actually create money out of thin air constantly. We do it all the time. We just don't know it. And we actually give it to the banks. We donate it to the banks every single time we pay our credit card bills or our mortgage. And that's the infinite money video that I showed you. So promissory notes, every time you use your credit card, you're creating and manufacturing a promise to pay. That promise to pay has the same value as a Federal Reserve note. At the end of the month, what happens is when you pay your credit cards with Federal Reserve notes, you basically, what's happening is in law, the way that's translated is you can keep all of the promissory notes that I produce throughout the month. I'm going to give you these new promissory notes to discharge the account. But the ones that I already created all month long, you can keep those as a donation. The way that the legal system is actually set up legally is that the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, which is what I have here on the screen, this is when they took away all the gold and they created a system basically where the government was going to be paying all of our bills, right? And the government is paying all of our bills. It's just that we don't know it yet, right? And I can actually prove that. 18 U.S.C. 8. 18 U.S.C. 8 is a section called obligation or other security of the United States to fine. Now, this is also one of those things where it's just so unbelievable. You won't believe me, but it's okay. I just plant seeds. I told the lady who started telling me about this shit to go fuck herself for 2 years, bro. And then I didn't tell a fucking soul for 6 months. So after I started reading it. So I totally understand. You know what I mean? Yeah. The term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve Bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills. I want to say it again. It feels nice. Bills. All of your bills are not obligations of yours, which might sound totally insane. And it's sad because it's what's so sad about this is that I love America and I love the American soul. And the American soul does not like this information. The American soul feels that We are responsible for our own things. We should be paying our own bills. We should be working men. We should be contributing to the society. All these things, and it's true, and it's lovely, and I love it, and I love the soul of America, and I have that soul. But that's not the world we actually factually live in. And all the wishes and all the hopes and all the American flags in the world aren't going to fucking change that. Okay, all your bills are obligations or securities or other security of the United States. And the United States is a private for-profit corporation that's located in the District of Columbia. So your bills are the obligation of a corporation inside the District of Columbia. So we do have a socialist society. We have a socialist society that's been reversed and altered to where it operates as a socialist society, but people believe it's a capitalistic society. So all your bills are paid for, but you're still going out and working and paying for them.
What a mind fuck.
Exactly. Psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
Certificates of deposit, bills, checks, or drafts for money drawn or authorized by officers of the United States, stamps and other representatives of value or of whatever denomination issued under any act of Congress and canceled United States stamps. So what happened was in the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, I can sum this whole monstrous thing up in a few words. We're taking all your gold, but it's okay. Don't worry. We're going to pay all your bills, and we're going to be the ones responsible. We're going to be mommy and daddy, and we're going to pay all your bills. So don't worry about it. We want all your gold, though. Give us all your gold. That's the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. Somehow, the Americans never got the memo. They probably weren't supposed to get the memo. So everyone turned in all their gold, but they kept paying their bills, right? Now, the Social Security Act came out right afterward, around the same time period, 1935. So if the money that we circulate in America in 1933 was no longer based off of the gold standard, what was it based off of? And they tell you this. Even the politicians talk about this. Even now, even on TV. The Social Security Act was created because they moved the backing of the currency from gold and silver coins over to potential labor. The labor or potential labor of the American people is the backing for the American dollar. The act that covers how exactly that entire backing works is called the Social Security Act of 1935. Inside the Social Security Act of 1935, it basically explains that we are all being collateralized and we are all given a value, and there's all this other stuff, and there's these corporations that are created when we're born and all these things. And all the structure has been developed to back the dollar in exchange for us allowing ourselves and our children to be collateralized through the Social Security system to back the dollar. We get all this money put into a trust fund for us. That trust fund is the Sesta KV trust account. You don't have to pay into it. A lot of people are like paying into their Social Security accounts as they work as part of their like deductions from their paycheck. Bro, you don't need to pay into that. There's $120 million in there, and it's been in there ever since the beginning, and it'll always be there. And you're always going to have Social Security, whether you pay into it or not. It makes absolutely no fucking difference at all whatsoever, because it's the government is exchanging with you for collateralizing and floating the entire financial system. So you get two things. Since you don't have any gold, you don't have any silver, you can't technically pay for anything, because money, even in Black's law, is defined as gold and silver coins. If you can't pay for anything, then how can you pay for anything? You can only discharge. So what the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 did is it gave us all the ability to discharge all debts because we can't physically pay them. In law, whenever there's a problem, they have to give you a remedy. So the problem was, we want to take all your gold and silver. The remedy is you can't pay for anything, so it's okay. We're just going to give you a magic wand and you wave it around and the shit just disappears.
Leviosa.
In my YouTube video, How to Have Infinite Money, that's where I explain in great detail, but in a very simple, fun, exciting, engaging way, how to do that. And the American people just never got the memo on that since 1933.
That is fucking wild. Do you go through, curious, because I know there's many different ways to metaphorically skin this cat, which is kind of a fucked up saying. I'd like to know where that came from, but I digress. But do you go through like, like the process of like validation of debt, affidavit of truth, then go into like notice of fault or like bill of particulars, depending on what laws the company or corporation that you're going for might have violated you? Because I know there are simpler ways with less processes than going all the way through like affidavit of truth and then through notice of fault, default, etc. I'm curious, and I know this is kind of like tactile, but I'm just curious like what yours looks like. Is it a one-step process for discharging?
It's so simple. By the end of the 3.5-hour presentation, you're going to be ready to start discharging all of your debts, including your tax debts, including your mortgages. You're going to be ready to start sending out mail. Well, probably not after the first video. You'll probably have to watch that second video that goes into the successful discharge, and we give some examples. You watch those 2 videos, so it's a total of probably about 4.5, 5 hours of your time. By the end of those 2 videos, you will be ready to get started. That's how fucking powerful this is, right? And to describe to you how the process works is every time you use your credit card, if you look on your receipts, when you sign them, so it's a lot to go over. It's all in the presentation, but I'll give you like a super, super brief overview, right?
It's the appetite.
Promise from a promise from UCC Article 3, which is all the information on promissory notes, means a written undertaking to pay money signed by the person undertaking to pay. So it's got to be written, it's got to be signed, and it's got to be a promise to pay money. Those are the 3 elements that it has to have, right? Now, are digital signatures considered written in law? The answer is yes, and it comes from the e-Sign Act, granted electronic signatures the same legal status as handwritten throughout the United States. When June 30th, 2000. Every time you use your credit card, you're creating a promise. You're creating a promissory note, right? And if you go into the Bill of Exchange Act, now, by the way, the Bill of Exchange Act comes from 1882, so this is some very old shit. People who think like, oh my God, they're just going to change all this at some point when people start learning about this. They aren't changing dick. This is old. This is really, really, really old. Okay.
Smells like mothballs old.
Yes. So we have here in the Bill of Exchange Act, this is one of the most important parts. This is the most life-changing part in the world right here. You can read this one out loud.
Bill means bill of exchange, and note means promissory note.
So if you look on the green pieces of paper on your wall that somehow magically get you things when you give them to people, it's called a Federal Reserve note. It's a promissory note. And bills aren't really bills. All bills are obligations of the United States, but bills aren't really bills. They're actually bills of exchange. So what it is you're manufacturing promissory notes all day long whenever you use your credit card. At the end of the month, they're sending you a statement. That statement is actually an investment portfolio that shows all of the securities that you've manufactured throughout the month. There's a process where you can actually release those securities to yourself to set off and discharge the account and bring it back down to zero.
Wow. Fuck. That is crazy.
And that includes mortgages. So you can do it on your house. You can request a payoff sheet from your mortgage company, and you can do the process that I teach you in the 2 videos that I just showed you, and you can bring the balance of the account down to zero. Actually, even better than that. Let's say you have a $1.8 million mortgage, and you've already paid $1 million on the mortgage in Federal Reserve notes. You can get the entire mortgage to discharge entirely, plus you can get the entire $1 million you've already paid on the mortgage returned to you.
Wow. And does that have like a certain time limit? Like, for instance, if like someone I know paid their house off 20 years ago or something, right? Does it have like a expiration date, if you will?
Oh, something like that. That's interesting. I'm not sure about that. There might be a statute of limitations or something on that. I'm not sure. That's a interesting question. I don't know. There might be a maybe. I don't know. But yeah, if you wanted to get a new house, or you wanted to upgrade your house, or you want to do this, or you want to do that, it's all included in the Bill of Exchange Act and the process that I teach you in the those 2 videos. So,
dude, That is unbelievable, Brandon. Like, I mean, this is just so fucking magical, man. And guys, for anyone like, when I first heard this stuff, I will not lie. I believed it right off the bat. You know why? Because I knew there was something shisty going on my entire life. But for most of you, you probably actually, I don't know, we're listening to a psychedelic podcast. Actually, for all I know, all you guys will be like, yep, I believe it, right? But for any of you guys that are maybe getting challenged around this, I recommend not only going to Brandon's website to check out his course, but also to your Instagram page as well, Brandon, because you have testimonials, if you will, right? Like pretty much people just showing like, hey, I did this thing. This is what I did. It worked. Here's the zero balance, etc. I'm curious for you, Brandon, have you had anyone that you've known personally do the mortgages yet? Because I've seen this happen with cars, no problem. Obviously credit cards, things like that. But I haven't met anyone personally that's like actually seen someone do it with a mortgage yet. I know it's possible. It's in the same category. But just for some reason, the people I've met, they've only done it with cars. I have a buddy who just did it with a brand new Maserati, discharged the entire thing, no payment, got the title, whole thing. But I'm curious if you yourself or someone you know have done it with like a mortgage or something.
I do. The mortgage companies are more difficult. They don't want people doing this, so they try to give you a hard time, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, you'll see in the videos that I just made, I teach you everything, all the background information, all the laws, all the definitions, everything. Like it's a full 8 years in banking school, college. It's like a PhD in banking in 3.5 hours. Okay. But I teach you right all the way up to the point where you have to start suing people. Mm. And I explain that very, very in full at the end of the video. It's like, okay, now this is where we're going to end. This is an incomplete presentation. From here, you start suing people. And I'm not going to get into that. And that's the other part of this conversation. So I am at that point where I've learned everything, I feel like, all the way up to that point. And then now I have to learn how to sue and go after people and do all the craziness. So once I start doing all of that, then I'll release more videos on how to do that, and we're going to start digging into that more and more and more as we move forward. That's the last part of this whole thing. There's a guy named Mansa that I love very much, and he sues. Awesome. He just does this shit, and then if they don't do it, he just sues, and they acquiesce, and they give him remedy every single time, and he just comes at him like a fucking ton of bricks.
That dude is a gangster. Like, yeah. I found him through you. You posted the picture, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And funnily enough, he looks just like this actor. So, like, I was like, is that the same guy from that show Startup? That was a funny side quest. But I'm actually going to his workshop on Saturday. I saw him because the person I'm learning through, they do a lot of consumer law, contract law, trust law, investing, all that kind of stuff. But they don't really touch UCC a lot. They do, but they don't. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of what he's in, like getting your bills paid and all these things. And, for me, like when I found this realm, it was very apparent to me, like, oh, this is my next full-blown obsession. The last thing I felt that way about is like plant medicines, cannabis, etc. And then also like just like holistic health in general. So I can tell like, oh yeah. So that's why when you recommended them, I followed him immediately. Dude's a gangster, man. Like, we'll smoke a fucking... I thought he was smoking a cigar, right? And he's smoking a fucking blunt that is so big. I'm like, dude. And he's drinking while he's doing it too. And the dude is so articulate. Like,
he's
amazing.
such a... He's dude. And I met him in person, and he was here in LA recently for an event, and he's just... he's even funnier and more engaging in person. I mean, he is just... He was in an all purple suit. I think you saw the picture, and it had a big custom wooden thing that hung down off of chains like this big. It said King on it or something like that. And he's just such a, you would never guess it looking at him, but he's just such a humble guy. And man, he is funny as hell. and he literally calls it laugh and learn the law. Right. I feel like if there's anybody in the world that at some point in time, maybe I'll do some collaborative work with it, it'd be him. Cause we would just mesh so well. His stage presence is phenomenal. He's dancing around like fucking good. He's like cracking Joe. He's just like, dude, I was like, it's just such a treat. He's just such a great, my presentation that I made and I put on YouTube, a huge chunk of it came from his teachings. Like it's a big spin, and I go deeper on some of the other areas of it. But like, if it wasn't for Mansa, like I wouldn't be teaching any of this, and I wouldn't know anything about any of this hardly at all. So he's the man.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I've been following him now. The Bureau Bullies, if you follow them,
the Bureau Bullies,
that guy's awesome. And then Water Priestess, Brother Truth. Like I've been finding a lot of these individuals in this space, for sure. Yeah, it's so interesting, man.
There's a lot of really good. In 2021, you could hardly find any information about any of this on the internet. Now, it's everywhere. Like Amir Law, I think it's like AMYR Law. He's like this black guy with dreadlocks. A lot of the guys in this movement are black because, they're tired of getting fucked around. They're really, really fucking tired of it, right? I love it. I think it's amazing. And when you study the 14th Amendment and you study how the whole U.S. citizen thing got started, it got started because at the end of the Civil War, they wanted to end slavery. So they created the U.S. citizen federal citizenship as a way of because people who didn't want slavery to end didn't want the slaves having the full rights of all the people in the 50 states or the several states, right? So they created this U.S. citizen. It's a federal citizen. It's basically employees and officers of the federal government. And it's this super low level citizenship level. And they took all the slaves and they put it in there to make both sides happy. The people who didn't want slavery to end, which is actually probably more than half the country, and then the people who did want slavery to end, right? So we've all been made slaves, but the blacks have been slaves. I mean, and they're tired of it, man. So it's cool. It's a very I've actually posted online a couple of times if it wasn't for all the black guys, I wouldn't even be doing this, bro.
I mean, they're unbelievable at this. Yeah. Mansa, the Bureau bullies. I mean, and Jeremy describes it the same way. He's they have civil rights. They don't even have regular rights. So they stand to gain a lot from status correction, And so for anyone listening, if you're a person of color or also know someone, definitely pass this along because it is extremely freeing for everyone, but especially certain nationalities and certain races and things like that. And it's fucking powerful, man. I mean, this stuff, I've been into it for about 3.5, 4 months now, and it's changed my entire view of reality. And it's my entire life I've had this low level anxiety behind me of why do I have to do all this shit? Why do I have to pay taxes and do all this shit? I've just known it was completely bullshit, but I didn't have the intellectual understanding to back it up. So obviously, right? If you just stop paying your taxes, you're going to get fucked. It's a system you go through to do it, right? You can't just decide one day, I'm going to stop and not do anything else. You're still within their system. That's why they have jurisdiction over you. But once you get out of their jurisdiction, you're a free agent. You're a natural person now. And like you were saying earlier, it's if you're aware enough by understanding the law, how to not get tricked into contracting again with them, right? Understanding contract law, these kind of things, then you can remain that natural person. And that's what, I feel in you, Jeremy, Mansa, all these individuals that are just really stepping up to the plate and fucking swinging it. It's just amazing, man. So I really appreciate you coming on and diving in, man. And, I want to have you on every so often as you come up with new processes, and things like that to continue riffing. And man, I want to make sure I think everyone knows where to find you already, but where can people find you? Do you have any new things that just came out? I think we talked about all of them anyway, but if you want to recap, where people can find you, maybe the newest things you got out, and we'll link it all in the show notes too, but just so they can hear it right from the horse's mouth, if they say.
Yeah, onestupidfuck.com, and you can go to the free contract killer course and you can sign up for that. But at this point in time, after what was just released last week, those 2 videos that I mentioned, the how to have infinite money and then the successful discharge video, I would probably start there for most new people. You're going to be it's going to be like you just snorted a line of Viagra, bro. I'm not kidding. You're going to be a lot of us, we start getting into this and pretty quickly we have the aha moment. And then we're our blood's flowing and our heart's racing. We feel like we're 8 years old again. The world is our fucking oyster, right?
Yeah.
I think these 2 videos are going to do that for pretty much everybody, right out the gate, bro. Yeah. I mean, this is going to get your blood flowing. If you've got heart problems, I could probably fix them with these 2 videos, bro. That's how fucking hardcore these
Either that or kill you, one or the other.
Either that or kill you. Yeah. If you've been a banker or a lawyer for the past 30 years, probably kill you. Okay.
Oh my goodness, Brandon, that is amazing. And holy absolute hell, ladies and gents, was that a mind fuck or what? When I first found Brandon, I knew I had to get him on the show. As for so many of us, finance and the ability to become wealthy has felt like an impossible dream from the start. However, what I hope you gain from this episode is the understanding that it is possible for you. And all that is required is that you begin studying the rules and laws that Brandon was speaking to today, that before today, I imagine you didn't even know existed. For anyone looking to dive into Brandon's material, follow him on social media and keep up to date on all of his latest creations, scroll down to the show notes for this episode where I will have all of those details laid out. Brandon, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to share your immense wisdom with the listeners and me on the show today, for daring to challenge the status quo and liberate those looking to become truly free, and for being one of the absolute funniest people I have ever met that can make me laugh no matter what I may be moving through that particular day. And until next time, my brother, may your journey be smooth and full of light. Aho.